A Karen accuses me and my friends of taking drugs in front of her children in a local park, causing me to vomit and pass out. Here's what happened when the police arrived. I live in a small, rather dodgy town near the coast of England, which naturally comes with an unusual amount of untitled chavs and 16-year-old entitled mums. This incident occurred a little over 2 years ago. I hadn't yet been diagnosed but was just 1 week later. I am also noticeably autistic. Anyone who actually pays attention to an interaction with me can easily tell something is off. Thankfully I am high functioning, which means I am able to function relatively normally in society, but I still have a lot of difficulty being completely oblivious to social cues and such, as well as some few tics here and there. Anyway, on to the story. I was with my mates, we'll call them Joe and Harry, and it was relatively sunny day by British standards, so we had decided to into town. All three of us had taken our skateboards with us, thinking we could go down to the beach in the evening and skate along the old concrete docks when it had cleared out for the day. In the meantime, we decided to go get a coffee and then head out to the skate park. Enter entitled mother and her children. When we arrived the skate park, we all immediately noticed 3 little crotch goblins running around, climbing up the ramps, etc. Now, I am by no means a professional at skating, nor are my friends, but knew that having 3 little kids running around while we skated was not safe. We were mostly concerned for their safety rather than ours, as we could take a tumble, but the kids could really get hurt. So I decided to go ask the eldest kindly where their mum was, and if they could move to the children's park, which was empty, and right next to the skate park. I hadn't even finished the first word when all of a sudden I heard a screech from a few from behind. I turn around to see what's happening. That's when I see her. Typical chav mum, badly dyed dark red hair, cheap earring hoops so big a gymnast could use them, dressed in a dirty pink onesie, a cig in one hand and a cheap Stella beer in the other, furiously walking towards the park. She's looking straight at me as she gets closer to park. I decide to ask the kid if this was his mother. Big mistake. As I turn back to face the kid, she suddenly yells, "Get the hell away from my kids, you nonce!" At this point I realize I am in it for the long run. My friends try to calm her down and explain. I was simply asking the kid if he could move to the dedicated kids park, which I repeat was right next to the skate park. She calms down a bit, but not much. She's still very irate, saying we have no right to talk to kids at our age. We again explain that I was simply asking to know where his mother was and would have gladly come to her first if we knew whose kids they were at this point. She's calmed down, but is still shooting glares that feel like daggers and insinuates that I am a pedo. I am annoyed but used to these types of interaction in this town. She gathers up her little hell spawns to, quote, make sure they're safe, again shooting me daggers, and tells us her kids have the right to play here, and we answered that they technically do, but that having them around could be potentially dangerous as we could hit them by accident while skating. Entitled mother then asked us, well then, why don't you skate somewhere else? Joe let her know that this is the only skate park in town. The council built it specifically to stop people skating elsewhere and potentially injuring others. I added to Joe's point, telling her, listen, we just want to make sure your children are safe. There's a park with swings and proper slides, instead having them go down the ramps. It's right there. This is the only place we have to practice safely. I'd even be fine with the kids staying here, as long as you keep an eye on them and they don't get in our way. Surprisingly, she just accepts it and says fine. The day goes on without much of note happening, just the kids getting in the way occasionally and crying about not being allowed to use our skateboards, which the mum did make a small fuss about, but it wasn't that bad. Until I sit down at the bench exhausted from the skating and feeling a migraine coming, as well as being pretty dizzy. Now, although I hadn't been diagnosed yet, my doctor previously believed I had high blood pressure that caused chronic migraines. I had been given medication that I carried in a small pill box, as I had to take them regularly as well, some ibuprofen, which I was told to take as soon as I felt a migraine brewing. I had also taken the habit to keep a few mints in the other compartment of my pill box to wash out the disgusting taste of the pills. Joe and Harry both came to sit with me, as they knew I had not been well recently, having passed out a few times in school and constantly being plagued with vertigo and migraines. I pulled out my pill box and took my meds with a big gulp of water, and then took a mint which I offered to both my friends. Each of entitled mother took one, and that's when we hear it. Entitled mother screams across the park, "Oh my good! How dare you take drugs in front of my kids!" At this point, knowing I am exhausted, Harry takes the lead, informing her that these are just meds for the chronic migraines that I suffer from. Entitled mother was having none of it, and keeps screaming, "BS! You chat more than my nan's bottom! I saw all 3 of you take them! You're all so disgusting, doing drugs in a kids park in front of my kids!" At this point, Harry has had enough, as all of the previous small pestering had built up, and he was done being polite. He burst out laughing and gave some attitude back to her. "Bro! love! Those were sweets, you mental cow! Now please leave us alone. We were kind enough to not purposefully slam into your kids even though you didn't even keep an eye on them like you said you would. They did the exact opposite of staying out of the way. The mother was so shocked. She clearly didn't expect us to talk back to her as she then pulled out her phone and in the suggest tone said, "I am calling the police," all with a huge grin on her face. Meanwhile, my migraine had taken a turn for the worst, as I hear her in the background yelling loudly like she was in mortal danger about some kids doing drugs to a poor 999 dispatcher. I start puking, like seriously puking, as the vertigo had kicked in and my migraine was at full strength, and as I do, I hear her screech, "One of them is ODing right in front of me and my kids. You need to send an officer over here right now." Harry and Joe quickly come to my help. Harry trying to keep me from falling over, as I am dry retching to the point it is making my throat bleed, while Joe goes to get my water bottle. The entitled mother, upon seeing me puke blood, looks at me and says, "Ew, that's disgusting." Harry now tried to get her to calm down and help, as I was in a much worse state than he had ever seen me. He asked her if she has napkins, and she looks at him with those same daggers I had had at the beginning of the day and says, "No! Besides, that's what he deserves for taking drugs in a kid's park. He can die for all I care." Thankfully, this being not that big of a town, the police house is just of the corner of the park, and the officers had arrived just in time to hear that last interaction, and although not understanding the full situation yet, were still baffled by her words. I passed out right as I saw them approaching me. I came back relatively quick, I'd say about 20 to 30 sec later. The entitled mother was droning on and on about how I had clearly taken drugs and was having an overdose or something. Harry and a policeman were now standing over me while Joe explained to another the full story. Harry handed me my water bottle along with my pill box, which the policeman took to inspect. In one compartment was the ibuprofen, clearly identifiable by the bright pink sugar coating on it, and in the other Tic Tacs. Yes, those drugs we supposedly took were none other than Tic Tacs. The officer just looked confused and handed me an ibuprofen, and watched me down a full liter of water before checking me over for any injuries and asking if I was feeling okay, to which I nodded and slowly got up. By that time, Joe had explained everything to the 4 other officers. The officers were very understanding and patient, considering behind them was an irate woman telling them he was a liar and that we were obviously high. In the end, the 5th officer showed the pill box to the 4 others who had found nothing while searching my bag. They all looked at the Tic Tac compartment dumbfounded. I heard Joe say, "They are clearly Tic Tacs." One of the officers took one out and put it in his mouth and just smirked. They then walked back my way and handed me back the pill box. The officer then pointed out I didn't look well at all and was very pale, and just offered to walk me back home as he didn't feel comfortable leaving me to walk that far alone. I gladly accepted that offer and made a big show of offering all the officers a Tic Tac as I left. Not sure what happened to the entitled mother, as me and my friends all decided to just go back to mine so I could rest and we could duke it out on Smash Bros. But the 4 officers did stay behind, so I think she got a stern talking to. A few days later, I was brought to hospital where they discovered that the supposed chronic migraines that had made me pass out were in fact due to leukemia. Oh my gosh, OP, what an absolutely wild ride of a story. I can't believe this Karen went full-on crazy mode just because you guys were trying to keep her kids safe at the skate park. I mean, the nerve of some people, right? And can we talk about how she just jumped to conclusions about you taking drugs in front of her kids? Tic Tacs, really? It's honestly baffling how she would rather watch you suffer, thinking you're overdosing, than offer any help. Thank goodness the police were there to witness her absurd behavior. I'm glad they had your back and escorted you home. I'm just so sorry to hear about your leukemia diagnosis, OP. Wishing you all the best in your battle. A Karen mom thinks our fresh milk at our farm is too expensive, freaks out, and then wants to buy our cow instead. Little does she know our little calf is actually male. Here's what happened. So, for a little bit of background, my grandma works on a medium-sized dairy farm as kind of a manager, and I am an 18-year-old who helps her out from time to time. We have a thing called milk filling station. It's basically a vending machine where you can buy fresh milk from us, and it's €1 per liter. We're located on a hill a little outside a small village and surrounded by meadows and forests, so we do get some hikers or families on a nice walk from time to time, especially on the weekends, and they usually look at the calves and buy some milk. One shift here usually includes 4 people. Everyone has different jobs to fulfill, so most of the time you're alone just doing your tasks, and my job is essential for the milking process, as it includes bringing the cows to the milking station and back to their herds. And now, on to the actual story. As I've mentioned, I'm alone most of the time, just doing my thing, running around inside the farm. It's a restricted area. We have signs up since it can be quite dangerous, but the gates are open to make work easier, and for ventilation so theoretically everyone could walk in. Still, I was kinda surprised when I, in the midst of literally shoveling cow shit, were met with a rather annoyed, "Ahem," behind me. I turned around, shovel still in hand, and saw a woman maybe in her mid-30s standing before me, way too overdressed to be seen anywhere near a farm. She also didn't look like she was on a casual walk with her family, at least I wouldn't do one in the high heels she was wearing. She was looking at me rather angrily, and I immediately knew that this probably was the day I'd been waiting for, although I never expected it to be here of all places. Before I could even so much as open my mouth, she already started speaking in a very condescending tone to me. "Finally! I've been looking for someone to help me for ages. Why are none of you doing your job and being there when you're needed?" I was instantly annoyed with this woman because how dare she come in here and talk to me like that? And also, what job was she referring to? Because I for one was doing mine right at this moment, and it was strictly timed. I had to get stuff done with zero time to listen to this lady. Still, I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt and be nice. "Sorry, if you are referring to the office in the front, there usually is no one since we're all in here doing our job. What's the problem? Maybe I can help?" I thought that maybe she's had a flat tire or something around here and needed help, because I legitimately had no idea what someone dressed like her could want on a dairy farm. She just scoffed at me. "Huh, unbelievable. You should be over there in case someone needs your help like I do. Anyways, your milk is too expensive." "I'm sorry, what?" "I said your milk is too expensive. I want a better price." She was saying every word slowly and loudly as if she thought I was disabled. "Oh, are you talking about the vending machine? I'm sorry, but that's a fixed price. I can't change that. And in my opinion," she cut me off. "I didn't ask for your opinion. It's way cheaper at the supermarket, but my daughter wanted to try fresh milk so we drove here. You should match the price at the supermarkets or you won't sell much." "Ma'am, we're not a supermarket. We're selling the leftover fresh milk so it doesn't go to waste." She cut me off again. "What? That's leftover milk? Ew, and to imagine my daughter could have drank that." Now for clarification, when I said leftover milk, I meant that it was fresh milk, as in barely out of the cow fresh, that we weren't able to sell to the company which collects our milk because they have fixed numbers. And if we produce more milk than those numbers, we would have to throw it away. But with the vending machine, at least some of it still gets sold. If you want fresher milk than that, you would have to milk the cow yourself right into the bottle. I started to try and explain this to the Karen, but she immediately cut me off. Again. "No, no, this is unacceptable. Neither me nor my child will drink old milk." And then, the dreaded sentence came, "I want to speak to your manager." I already had enough of this bullshit, pun intended, and as I've already said, a strictly timed job that I had to get back to, because we were in the middle of milking our cows, and this lady was literally holding up the whole process by holding up me. So I was more than happy to agree and get her to my manager, my grandma, and have her out of my hair. I just motioned for her to follow me and speed walked in the direction of the front office, while the lady was trying to keep up in her high heels without breaking her ankles. Now, our office is in kind of another building, and the door closest to us was locked, so we had to walk around the building, across the parking lot for the workers, and through another entrance, that happened to be right besides the boxes we kept the newborn calves in. This also was the place where I met the before-mentioned daughter of the Karen. The girl was maybe 10 years old and happily watching the calves and petting them when we came into view. As soon as she saw her mom, she ran to her and started excitedly jumping up and down. "Mom! Mom! Look at the cute calves!" She dragged her mom over to the boxes. "Look! It's so cute! I named her Emma. Can we keep her? Please see." I expected the Karen mom to maybe say something along the lines of, "A cow is not a pet," or "We don't have the space," or maybe, "I don't know how to take care of a cow." But boy, was I wrong. Instead, the mom turns to me and asks completely serious, "How much are these?" Now, although we do sell our male calves since they are of no use to us, I for one wasn't sure how much exactly this calf was worth. Pretty sure that there was a registration process involved in owning a cow, and in no way, shape, or form authorized to just sell a calf like that. And on top of that, cows aren't exactly animals you can just put in your yard and be done with. "I'm sorry, but..." I was cut off again. "No, I asked how much it is. Tell me." "Ma'am, that's a cow, not a pet." "I know, but your milk is way too expensive anyways. Just sell me one of those if my daughter wants it, and we will have our own, really fresh milk." At this point, I strongly considered just walking away, because there was no way this woman could be serious. She deadass wanted to buy an animal that would grow up to be around 1.4 meter high and 700 kilograms heavy, strong enough to kill you if you handled them wrong. Not only that, but also a cow of a breed that needs to be milked twice a day because it produces as much milk as possible, which is around 50 liters at our farm. All that because €1 per liter for fresh milk apparently was too much, and her daughter thought our calves were cute. They are, but that's not the point. Plus, you need to properly take care of them, feed them right, and just getting a calf won't give you instant milk. She has to grow up, get pregnant, give birth, etc. All around this, Karen would have to wait for another 24 to 28 months until her calf starts giving milk, and then repeat the process every year. So she would have new calves to take care of every year just to keep her one cow running, so to speak. Instead of telling her directly how stupid, time and money consuming this idea is, I decided to try and take the diplomatic way. Ma'am, I understand, but it's not that easy. I'm afraid I'm not able. Then get me something who's able. I wanted to speak to your manager anyways. Why do you have to be such an incompetent worker? How old are you? 15? Children shouldn't talk back to adults. That's where I've had it. And so I just blurted out the best thing I could think of at the time. Me. I am an adult, and you should stop talking to me like that. I am not obligated to help you, and in fact we could sue you for trespassing on private property. How dare you threaten me? Young lady, that is no way to talk to a person older than you. Learn some respect. I demand to speak to your manager. I will get you fired for this. As if she was called, my grandma stepped out of the building right at that moment, probably because she heard the commotion. What's going on here? Oh good, are you the manager of this place? Jam. At the moment, yes. How can I help you? This worker of yours was incredibly rude. She threatened me and my daughter and refused to help us. She even tried to assault me right before you came outside. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been on time. Karen was trying to squeeze some fake tears out at this point, quickly swiping them away with her finger before they could ruin her very thick layer of makeup. All we wanted was to ask if we could get the milk you are selling a little cheaper, and my daughter here really likes this calf over there, so we thought about buying it. My grandma was just silently listening to this woman's story, arms crossed and eyebrow raised because she could smell the bullshit from 3 miles away. Ma'am, this is my granddaughter you're talking about, and I know for a fact that she wouldn't do any of that. Karen went awfully quiet at that. So, about the milk. I maybe would have helped you out if you hadn't just lied to my face, but now I kindly ask you to just pay the full price as everyone else does. And the calf, I'm afraid I won't be able to sell it to you. This is outrageous! I'm a paying customer. I would pay for this calf. Why are you refusing? My daughter wants a cow, and she likes this one there. Ma'am, that won't give you a cow. It will give you a bull. It's a male calf. You're lying. You just don't want to sell it because it's pretty. My grandma just silently pointed to the big male symbol on the side of the box, clearly labeling it as a boy. At this point, the Karen just huffed and mumbled something about stupid, uneducated people from the countryside and how she would never come back here ever again, which I would also really appreciate. The little girl was whining loudly about her cow while her mom was dragging her back to their expensive-looking car, and my grandma and I watched them drive away before having a good laugh about the whole story. Yo, so I totally stand with the OP on this one. I mean, who the hell does this lady think she is, coming into someone's farm and talking down to them like that? And seriously, complaining about the price of the milk? Like, come on. It's not like they're charging an arm and a leg for it. It's just a fair price for fresh milk. Plus, it's not like the OP was trying to rip her off or anything. They were just trying to sell the leftover milk so it didn't go to waste. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather pay a little extra for fresh milk from a farm rather than getting it from a supermarket where who knows how long it's been sitting there. Overall, I just think this lady was being super entitled and rude, and the OP handled the situation perfectly. But you know what's crazier? The video on screen where a Karen demands Op's seat on a bus because he's too young to be disabled? Yeah, that don't make any sense.